I know this might sound confusing to a lot of people, but welcome to the introduction video of the first legally founded and duly registered world governing body for the sport of OCR. This video is made at the request of many people who do not understand what is happening with the sport they compete in, or in some cases, even govern. In this introduction video, we will detail most of the aspects that led to what some might categorize as the creation of a new world governing body for OCR. As we will deduce at the end of the video, the phrasing is inaccurate because the World Obstacle Course Running Federation is actually the first legally created and duly registered governing body for OCR in Europe and the entire world. For the sake of clarity, we will differentiate between two seemingly identical organizations: the prior World OCR, one of the 6 identities used by the organization currently identifying as World Obstacle, and the new one, which was founded in 2024 and registered in the same country, same region, same city, and the exact same registration office where the first one claimed existence and operation since 2018 under the same identity. This video will mainly present why the founding of World OCR was necessary and demonstrate that the purpose was never to hurt the sport or divide it without a clear and justified purpose. A second video will be uploaded to explain the strategy of the new federation and what will follow between 2024 and 29. I am aware that some of the aspects presented by me today will be dismissed by third parties as inaccurate or maybe untrue. I only ask you to consider one thing while listening to the opposing points of view: proof. Do not automatically validate statements as proof, no matter what is said and who is saying it. Ask for updated and registered documents that support any counter-arguments for the points presented in this video. If you ever doubt yourself in a discussion with someone, due to the fact that you are probably not a Swiss legal professional, always ask yourself one thing: why are all the 49 international sports federations that have a legal seat in Lausanne registered just like the new World OCR? OCR has seen an exponential growth in popularity over the past decade. However, the confusion and frustration amongst athletes has also grown with it. Firstly, the confusion related to multiple existing commercial and seemingly federated commercial events acting as world or European championships for the sport has diluted the prestige and significance of the title. For most of these events, the main factor that kept the events functioning is ticket sales, which undermines the competitive integrity of the sport. Athletes are left uncertain about which championship holds true merit, and fans are confused about which event represents the actual world-level competition of the sport. Secondly, the sport's governance has been severely affected by a lack of transparency and commercial interests that stand behind it. The bodies that claim to govern OCR at international level had mostly operated without clear standards and accountability, without bank accounts, or even without properly registered or updated documents. Decisions affecting the sport, from sudden rule changes to major organization of events, have left athletes, coaches, and sometimes even federations in the dark. This has led to a widespread dissatisfaction and mistrust within the OCR community. This informational video aims to shed light on the complex and often incredible story behind the governance of the sport. By examining the issues from the inside, we hope to provide a clearer understanding of why the current situation is so problematic. The purpose of this video is to explain why the creation of World OCR, the World Obstacle Course Running Federation, was not just necessary, but crucial. World OCR stands as the first legally founded and duly registered world governing body for the sport, dedicated to bring transparency, integrity, and standardization to the sport. By unifying the governance under a single accountable entity, World OCR aims to restore the competitive integrity of the sport and foster a fair and transparent environment for it. Before we start, let me introduce myself. My name is Raul Fodor, and I am the former executive board member of the European Obstacle Sports Federation, which we will call EOSF from now on. I also served as the president of the Strategic Development Committee for Europe, the only committee established by the decision of USF, and this was at my request actually. The group was tasked with improving proper governance and the overall recognition of the sport throughout Europe, and simultaneously create regions within the continent. These are both positions from which I immediately resigned after I understood how the system was functioning. For the sake of clarity and context, I would like to specify what EOSF actually is. The European Obstacle Sports Federation is an organization acting as the Continental Federation of World Obstacle, the organization acting as the world governing body of the sport. The key word here that we need to retain is acting. Before we get to the actual presentation of World OCR, the World Obstacle Course Running Federation, we will break down the above-mentioned information to create the necessary perspective that will adjust the information so that we properly understand what is happening. Context is an important thing that unfortunately was never fully explained to OCR athletes or even to most people that run national organizations that promote the sport. Some might argue that this was intentional. As things unfold, we will be using a lot of examples and analogies to help us better understand the overall picture. For this purpose, I want to ask you to participate in an imagination exercise. Imagine that we are in a theater play in which the federations are the actors and the athletes are the spectators. Both groups have no apparent control over how things progress during the play. The actors are there to play the roles they were given as best as they can, and the spectators are there to watch the play unfold. Some of the spectators might not like how the play is directed, but they cannot leave because the doors are shut until the play ends. Even if the theater play exercise is useful to point out what has happened and continues to happen as we speak in the sport of OCR, the most relevant example is the blue pill, red pill analogy from the movie The Matrix. For those of you that are too young because this is a movie launched in the 1990s, I will practically leave a link in the description. Basically, the scene is inspired by Plato's allegory of the cave. The short version of the story goes like this. A group of people have been tied up in shackles and imprisoned since their birth in a cave. They cannot see each other, but they can see their own shadows and the shadows of the things projected by the people that have enshackled them, like trees, other people, and birds. One day, one of the prisoners manages to free himself and escapes from the cave. Once he reaches the outside world, he cannot believe his own eyes. The shadows that he has seen for his entire life come to life. He is amazed by the contrast between the two worlds. And after spending enough time in the outside world, he returns to his fellow prisoners from the cave to tell them what he saw. However, instead of listening to him, they tell him that he is crazy, they become aggressive, and they tell him to leave. The story reflects the fact that people tend to be ignorant and would rather die tied up in shackles than admit their ignorance. Just like in the movie, at the end of this introductory video, you will have two options. Take the blue pill, believe what you were presented up until now, and keep being in the matrix, or take the red pill and see how deep the rabbit hole actually goes. In the upcoming section of the video, we will be presenting the types of international federations and the differences between them. The three types of international federations are the following. The point that we will be making here is that legislation allows the creation of multiple types of international federations for various purposes. These purposes can vary from hobbies, specific professions, and of course, sports. The distinctions we will be making are relevant to create a perspective so that athletes and other interested parties we'll understand why the establishment of the governing body for OCR was important. Please notice and retain that we will not be using the phrasing a new world governing body. This will be justified later on. In the next few minutes, we will be presenting and comparing the three types of federations. The ones, first, that are created for hobby-based activities, which can exist for practically any purpose, the ones created for a clearly defined work ethic purpose, focused on professions, and the last, but not least, the ones created for sports. For the sake of clarity, we will use the terms for our comparison: generic international federations, profession-oriented international federations, and sports federations. First, let's talk about generic international federations. These organizations include any hobby, activity, or amateur sport and can be created for practically any purpose. For instance, we have the International Federation of Competitive Eating, which oversees eating competitions, and also the International Federation for Air Guitar, dedicated for the art of pretending to play the guitar. While these examples may seem amusing to some, they illustrate that international federations can be formed for a wide range of interests, no matter how unconventional. Sport is no exception. It is important to point out that an organization, especially in certain and most permissive parts of the world, can seem to be a sport federation but not actually be one. This is also true for world championships. You can organize a world championship for almost anything, may it be sport-based or not. A relevant example here, considering the context of obstacle sports, is the Hobby Horse World Championships, a worldwide event in which athletes run and jump over obstacles while holding a toy horse between their legs. For those of you who do not know what air guitar looks like, you can check out the link 2024 Air Guitar World Championships, an event that is planned to take place between the 21st and the 23rd of August in 2024. On the same note, anyone can organize a world championship for a hobby, activity, or an amateur sport. The perfect example here is OCR itself. OCR has multiple world championships, like the Spartan World Championship, managed by the American brand Spartan, or the OCR World Championships, formerly managed by a private company named Adventure A, and which, to our knowledge, this was bought by Spartan as well. And the World Obstacle OCR World Championships, a world-level event that was presented as the first official world championship for the sport. If in the case of the first two mentioned world championships, we have commercial brands that put on high-value, well-organized events since they were founded, in the case of last one, we only have one event, and that was a financial disaster that concluded with the bankruptcy of the host federation from Belgium. Even if we have most of the details related to what happened there, including financial data, documents, and other things, we will not pursue this subject now because it has no relevance for the purpose of presenting our organization. The second category is the profession-oriented international federation. And a good example here is the International Federation of Accountants. This organization serves a clear and well-defined purpose, a work-based purpose, focusing on setting standards and promoting good practices in the accounting profession worldwide. And the third category, of course, is the International Sports Federation. Let's shift our focus to sports. These organizations are responsible for governing and promoting specific sports on a global scale. There are three main types of international sports federations. The ones that are duly registered and operated as international sports federations and are recognized by the IOC. These federations, like FIFA for football and FINA for swimming, are officially recognized by the International Olympic Committee and must follow strict governance protocols and operational standards to keep the sports functioning. Standards are the key word here that we need to remember. Duly registered and operated international sports federations that are not yet recognized by the IOC. This is the second category. Even if they are not yet recognized, they are properly registered, transparently operated with clear governance structures that follow a strict and clear protocol and operational standards, and practically they are fully liable for their actions within the sport and outside of it. As you can see, the key word in the first two examples are standard. Now the third one, paper federations. These are organizations that exist mostly on papers, sometimes even outdated ones. They are created on paper, but they do not appear in any register of state authorities. Their governance structure can be modified quite easily because it doesn't require updating of any documents in any registers. They only claim to follow protocols and operational standards, but not necessarily do that. They have no evidence of track of records, financial data, financial statements, and they cannot, this is the most important thing, be held accountable for their actions. Sporting authorities might not even know about them. Implicitly, they cannot be held accountable if something happens. Now, let's talk about the dynamic between international federations and Swiss law. For those of you who would like to better understand how Swiss law handles the creation and operation of associations, before we get into what World OCR is and what it is not, we will dive in and detail certain aspects that explain why Swiss law is special, and it permits a more loose way of handling procedures related to the founding of international federations. For those of you who are not directly interested in this subject, you can skip for the next 5 minutes. Let's ask a few questions to better understand the issue and create context. Does an international federation created in Switzerland need to be duly registered in order to claim existence? Well, actually, no, it does not. Can you create, let's say, 365 international federations in Switzerland and claim that they legally exist? Yes, you can, at least as long as you don't actually plan to use them, and especially at international level. Do they have to be registered with the cantonal state authorities in order to perform even basic level tasks, like receive a tax ID number, open a bank account, or anything practically to start functioning? Well, yes, they should, and they do. The key difference here is intent, respectively what you intend to do with the organization. If you only aim to create one, which will have no actual intent of being functioned, practically you plan to just present it as existing, then you don't need to register it. You can claim that it was legally founded. However, if you plan to actually make it operational on a long-term basis, you will need to go for registration. The dynamic between Swiss-based international member federations and EU member state federations. The article that regulates the founding of the Swiss Verein practically, which is the equivalent of the association, are Articles 60 to 79 from the Swiss Civil Code. Now the twist that is of major contrast to most EU state legislations that specify the terms and conditions in which an association can or cannot be founded is that Swiss law allows you to found an association, but it does not oblige you to register it. What does this mean? That you can state that you have an association in Switzerland that is created in the form of an international federation, but you can delay registration or not register it with the Swiss register until you actually plan to use it. Now, this doesn't mean that you are not obliged to file your tax declarations or exempts, but you need to have also a Swiss legal representative if someone needs to be held reliable. Like, for instance, in the case you organize a world championship that ends up as a financial disaster that you cannot justify, the suppliers end up not getting paid, the host federation goes bankrupt, but you pitch the event as a success to the entire world. If an organization plans to do anything more than just exist within the boundaries of Switzerland, then it should register. This is especially the case for international sports federations that have member countries from all over the world. Especially EU state-level authorities, for example, only accept documents issued by international federations that are registered and recognized as existing by the state authorities in which they were founded. For Switzerland, this means the cantonal registry or the Swiss Federal Office for Justice. After they are registered, anyone can request an extract issued by the Swiss authorities that proves the fact that the organization is active and complies with Swiss law. If, for example, a national governing body of a sport from the European Union would request documents that prove the existence and mode of operation of an international federation of which it is a member of, a document that they would need to present to the local or national authorities and which would need to be confirmed in the international federation of which they are a member of, that document would need to be supplied by a state registry or archive. A simple document signed by hand would have no value whatsoever. This is, of course, the case in most countries. So, the point that we are trying to make here is that even if Swiss law allows the creation of the Verein, as in the legal form of the international federations, the moment that they accept member federations from other countries, they need to align and register to other legislations as well. Otherwise, they will not be able to justify their existence in such a way in which the member federation can present it to its own authorities. The concept of horizontal recognition, as described in the EPAS manual, presents this exact aspect in detail, specifying that acknowledgement by one or more sporting authorities does not automatically mean that the organization is fully compliant with national legislation and is recognized as active within the country in which it is founded. The link to the manual will be put in the description of the video. Now let's get to the founding of the new World OCR. The first step taken in the creation of World OCR, the World Obstacle Course Running Federation, was to craft the Articles of Association of the organization. These were created by the representatives of the Swiss-based law firm with which World OCR has a signed agreement. Once a final version was agreed upon, the founding members of the organization held a founding meeting of the association, a meeting after which, considering that the meeting was taking place in front of a Swiss lawyer, World OCR was declared as legally existing. The combination of the commercial name plus legal name of the organization was chosen based on the model of the priorly existing organizations that were identifying as world governing bodies since 2018. The initial legal name under which the organization was announced and created after the founding meeting from March 2024 was World OCR, Fédération Internationale de Course à Obstacles, and the abbreviation for it was WOCRF, and the French equivalent was FICO. The second step that followed the creation of the organization on paper was its registration with the cantonal registry to which it belonged at federal level, so that the organization becomes duly registered and recognized as active by the Swiss federal authorities. This is where things got stuck, and we were notified that the registration was rejected. The reason was shocking. We were notified by the Swiss authorities that the combination of words World OCR and Fédération Internationale de Course à Obstacles was incompatible by definition, due to the fact that the meaning of the words is different, as in world in English is not the equivalent of international in French, and implicitly it is impossible to register with this exact combination. We then needed to change the legal name of the organization so that it complies with the requirements set forth by the Swiss authorities in order to continue with the registration. This is how FICO became FMCO, as in from World OCR, Fédération Internationale de Course à Obstacles, we had to change to World OCR, Fédération Mondiale de Course à Obstacles, so that the wording that we used to describe the organization is identical in both English and French. What is the key takeaway from this experience? That an organization that presents itself as World Plus Sport in English cannot even be considered for recognition and registration by the Swiss federal authorities under the legal name Fédération Internationale Plus Sport, until it adapts its legal name to Fédération Mondiale in French. A good reference that we can use here to further exemplify that the creation and actual operation of an international sports federation should follow a clear protocol is related to the construction of a house. You should start working on aspects related to decoration only after the foundation is solid and finished. On the same note, you should only start organizing events and contacting sporting authorities to obtain recognition after you make sure that you checked all the boxes related to the proper creation and compliance of the organization that you founded, as described in the vertical versus horizontal recognition in the EPAS manual, which means the enlarged partial agreement on sport. Now, let's see how many boxes World OCR checks related to the first level of recognition, and this only after 3 months after it was founded. Does it have a valid legal seat with a signed domiciliation agreement in Switzerland? Yes, it does. Does it have a legal representative with Swiss nationality in case it needs to be held accountable in front of Swiss authorities or the Court of Arbitration for Sports? Yes, it does. Is the information related to the existence of the organization and its founders transparent and easily accessible? Yes, it is. The documents that are on the WOCR.org website, respectively the founding minutes and the articles of association, are the exact same documents that would be obtained by anyone that would request an extract from the database of the Swiss authorities. Can you find it on Swiss informational websites that present information related to duly registered organizations in Switzerland? Yes, you can also do that. Can you find it in the official Swiss Federal Online Database? Yes. As a conclusion to this section of the video, we could say that even if an international federation can claim to be legally existing in Switzerland, it still has to align with certain conditions in order to state that it exists since the date of founding, be able to present founding minutes in original and up-to-date version of articles of association where everyone can clearly see the founders and the active members of the board on the documents. These documents that contain the names of the founders and the active board members must also be available on the website of the organization. By establishing a legitimate, duly registered and transparently governed world governing body, we can ensure that the sport's transparent, fully responsible and proper growth on a global stage is assured. As we move forward, please do consider this. Lausanne is home to 49 international sports federations. All of them are registered. Why are they registered like World OCR? Lausanne is home to 49 international sports federations. All of them are registered. Why are they registered like World OCR?